मेरी वाली यहाँ डाल दे उनके ऊपर। बड़ी तेरी मेहरबानी कर दी यार। बंद कर दिया यार मेरे को भाई। हाँ जी, तो we were at discussing about India Nepal ties, right? So in this we have to discuss about the agreement that was the treaty that was signed between India and Nepal in the year 1950. So two aspects we have to basically study about that treaty, and those two aspects are, the first aspect is about the terms of the treaty, like what were the terms of that particular treaty, and another thing we need to know about the opposition to those that treaty. Okay, so what are the oppositions that are coming against that treaty and in what form? Okay, so one very important aspect of this treaty is that some very new things, okay, came in the relations between India and Nepal, and those were, for example, like the borders were thrown open. The borders were basically made porous. Okay, the border ties got strengthened. Just give me a second. Yeah, so border thing came, okay, and another was basically we agreed on providing respect, mutual respect to each other's sovereignty. All right, so we agreed that we will be respecting each other's sovereignty, and also there were some important security and arms provision that Nepal, before basically signing any defense agreement or basically arm, before importing any types of arms, Nepal will first consult with India. Okay, such were the terms of the treaty. Okay, just write the introduction to this treaty. The India Nepal, the India Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1950. The India Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1950 was signed on 31st July 1950. Was signed on 31st July 1950. And this treaty laid the foundation. And this treaty laid the foundation. लेट कैसे हो गए आज? This treaty laid the foundation of modern India-Nepal relations. Of modern India-Nepal relations. Okay. Right. It institutionalized the cultural, historical, economic. It institutionalized the cultural, economic, historical, and strategic ties. And strategic ties. क्या हुआ? Cultural, historical, economical, and strategic ties between the two countries, and created a formal framework for cooperation. And created a formal framework for cooperation. ठीक है? All right. क्लियर है ये चीज? तो इसमें क्या हुआ कि इसमें जो है उस समय दिस ट्रीटी हैज एक्चुअली फॉर्मलाइज्ड एवरीथिंग. बिफोर दिस ट्रीटी द थिंग्स वर मोर ओवर सेम. ऐसा नहीं था कि इससे पहले देयर वर वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट बॉर्डर्स, देयर वाज नो movement of people across the border. It wasn't like that. But what was happening as a custom on ground during that time, that was institutionalized by the way of this treaty. All right, right. This treaty was signed at a time when this treaty was signed at a time when India had just become independent. In bracket, you can write 1947. India had just become independent. Nepal was under Rana rule. Okay, Nepal was under Rana rule, right? China had gone communist, had undergone communist revolution. China had undergone communist revolution, and Tibet was to be occupied. Tibet was about to be occupied by China. Okay, and Tibet was about to be occupied by China. कैसे? आज सभी को कलेक्टिवली लेट होना था क्या? सही कलेक्टिवली. ये तो कह रही थी मास बंद कर रहे हैं. बताओ, भड़काते हैं हमको ताकि मैं डांटू तुम लोगों को. नहीं कहा तुमने? ऐसे ही बोल रही थी. कहती मास बंद कर रहे हैं सर, देख लो इनको. देखो, नहीं कह रही थी ऐसे? क्या कह रही थी? नहीं करेगा? मेरी बात पे बिलीव नहीं करेगा भाई? नहीं, गलत बात है यार. टीचर की तुम बात पे बिलीव नहीं करते हो हैं. तुम तो करोगी ना मेरी बात पे बिलीव? मैं कहूंगा तो नहीं करोगी. चलो. So this was the time, है ना? This was almost a very turbulent time, है ना? And during this time, we wanted to ensure our Himalayan security. We know that Nepal is a buffer between Tibet and here India, है ना? So we wanted to ensure our Himalayan security. So write this. Thus, the treaty had both strategic and political importance. Thus, the treaty had both security and strategic and political importance, especially in terms of Himalayan security. You can write one more line. लिखो, this treaty serves as the bedrock of Indo-Nepalese relations, है ना? This treaty serves as the bedrock of Indo-Nepalese relations. ठीक है? This is the main foundation. So ऐसा लिखो, what are the major provisions of this treaty? What are the major provisions of this treaty? मैं दोस्त है आज. क्यों? क्लास कॉलेज की. तो लिखो, ठीक है, ऑफ दिस ट्रीटी. तो देखो, पहला प्रोविजन है म्यूचुअल पीस एंड सोवेनिटी। देखो परपेचुअल पीस की बात हो रही है ना, दैट वी बोथ विल मेंटेन पीस एंड वी बोथ विल रेस्पेक्ट द सोवेनिटी ऑफ बोथ द नेशंस। ऑलराइट, ठीक है। इन पॉलिटिकल साइंस वी डिस्कस अ बिलियर्ड बॉल मॉडल। बिलियर्ड बॉल कैसा होता है? वो एक बॉल होता है, तुमने देखा होगा, वो ऐसे उससे मारते हैं, है ना। वो बॉल्स होती है बीच में बहुत सारी, दोस बॉल स्कैटर्स एवरीवेयर इन द बोर्ड, है ना, बिलियर्ड बॉल। सो जस्ट कंसिडर दैट ऑन दैट बॉल, on that board all the balls are sovereign states, है ना। they all are having their sovereignty, they all are equal in terms of their sovereignty, but fighting or basically striking with each other but still trying to retain their own sovereignty, है ना। so on the basis of that only we signed in this agreement that we will be respecting each other's sovereignty. All right, ऐसे लिखो इसमें, both India and Nepal agreed to, both India and Nepal agreed to maintain perpetual peace and friendship, to maintain perpetual peace and friendship, perpetual friendship. Next point, to respect each other's independence and sovereignty, to respect each other's independence and sovereignty, ठीक है, to respect each other's independence and sovereignty. All right, and also write one more point, to follow a policy of non-interference in internal affairs, to follow the policy of non-interference in internal affairs, ठीक है, that the states will not interfere in each other's internal affairs. Okay, you can also write that this provision established the relationship on the basis of sovereign equality. This provision established the relationship on the basis of the provision of sovereign equality, ठीक है, कि with respect to the sovereignty of both the nations we both are equal. All right, now security and arms provision. तो नेपाल by this, सुनो सुनो सुनो, लिखा नहीं, लिखा नहीं. So Nepal by this provision agreed that Nepal, before importing arms from any third country, will first consult India. ठीक है, that before, because see we are giving them a lot, we are giving them a lot, है ना. In term, Nepal has also given us a lot, basically in terms of that Gorkha regiment. Have you heard about the Gorkha regiment of Indian Army? Most of the soldiers in Gorkha regiment are the Gorkhas who originally belong to, ठीक है. तो ऐसा करके कोई स्टेटमेंट भी है ना. इफ यू विल आस्क समवन वेदर दे विल एक्सेप्ट डेथ और नॉट, तो ईदर ही इज लाइंग और ही इज गोरखा, ऐसा समथिंग कुछ ऐसा है ना. या तो कोई मौत को स्वीकार कर सकता है, तो या तो वो गोरखा है या वो झूठ बोल रहा है, ठीक है. तो ऐसा कुछ है, मतलब मेरे को याद नहीं आ रहा एग्जैक्टली. तो गोरखास आर कंसिडर्ड टू बी एज द great warriors, है ना, in the battlefield. Okay, and there are I think more than 32,000 Gorkhas, okay, in Indian, serving in Indian army. All right, so we have also received a lot from Nepal, but in term we have given them a lot, so that's why they agreed to this term. Okay, so they agreed that they will consult India before importing arms from any of the third country. Okay, write this. One important clause of the treaty states that one important clause of the treaty states that Nepal must consult India. That Nepal must consult India. Nepal must consult India before importing arms from any third country. Before importing arms from any third country. Okay, before importing arms from any third country. ठीक है, क्या हुआ? पेन खत्म हो गया? इतना लिखती हो तुम? हाँ? इस पेन को संभाल के रखो, खत्म पेन को संभाल के रखो, एंड देन व्हेन यू विल बिकम ऑफिसर ना, then this pen will be the mark of your memory that you really worked so hard, that you got success. तुम क्या हुआ? तुम क्यों परेशान हो गए? तुम मुंह बना रही हो? नहीं, तुम नहीं रखती हो अपना पेन, खत्म हुआ है ना, रखो इसको। पेन नहीं खत्म होता, होता है। अभी तक ये हमेशा हमसे लड़ती है, पता नहीं क्यों, इनको क्या दुश्मनी है हमसे, बताओ? हम क्या किसी का खराब किया है कुछ? क्या नहीं। हाँ हाँ, पेज दिलवा दिया था, यस। इनसे हमने एक नए बच्चे को पेज दिलवा दिया था, इसलिए इनको जो है, हाँ, और कल ही से देखो ये हमसे चिढ़ रही है, कल ही से ये हमसे दुश्मनी कर रही है। देखो, अरे माफ कर दो भैया हमको, हम तुमको ला देंगे। तुम्हारा कितना पेज खर्च हुआ था? अरे नहीं, उसने खर्च किया ना एक पेज तुम्हारा और कुछ पेन की थोड़ी सी इंक, हम ला देंगे तुमको वापस, ठीक है? हमसे कल ले लेना याद से, हम तुमको पेज ला के देंगे। चलो, अब देखो क्या लिखा लास्ट, थर्ड कंट्री है ना। देखो, दिस प्रोविजन वॉज इंक्लूडेड ड्यू टू सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न्स। दिस प्रोविजन वॉज इंक्लूडेड ड्यू टू सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न्स as Nepal lies in the this provision was included due to security concerns as Nepal lies in the sensitive Himalayan region between India and China. Lies in the sensitive Himalayan region between India and China. ठीक है, ऑल क्लियर? तो दैट इज, इसलिए क्या था, अब हमें क्या करना था, हमें जो है, वी वांटेड टू प्रोटेक्ट नेपाल फ्रॉम गिविंग एंट्री टू एनी हॉस्टाइल कंट्री, because we did not wanted that whether it be western country America or whether it be any other countries, that they give Nepal arms and those arms can be used against India. Because see, Nepal is at a place like Pakistan. See, Pakistan gets arms, so it enters India. We never wanted that Nepal to be used as a place to do any anti-India activity. That's why, and anti-India activity can be done by using arms only. And when they will be receiving arms from any of the third countries, then that can be used as uh, to build anti-rhetoric India, anti-India rhetoric है ना, तो आर्म्स की हेल्प से जो है वो बिल्ड हो सकता है। We never wanted that. ये भी लिख लो ये बात, India's objective was to prevent the entry of India's objective was to prevent the entry of hostile foreign power into India. Hostile foreign power into India. Or the use of Nepal's territory India against India's security interest, or the use of Nepal's territory against India's security interest. ठीक है, लेकिन यही क्लॉज है, क्या हुआ बताओ? और यही, but this is the only clause, not only but one of those clause which is highly criticized in Nepal. The Nepal, whenever opposition party there raises any concern, the major thing there is like, just imagine the way how in India the political party wins the election or loses the election by basically building or going against the Pakistan rhetoric. On the name of Pakistan, several parties have already won the elections in India, right? So that the same thing happens there in Nepal also. The same thing happens there. In Nepal, the parties, they criticizes this particular provision of the treaty. Okay, that this is a limitation on Nepal's sovereignty. We are not fully sovereign. This government is not rejecting this provision. Okay, but this provision has already like is still standing tall. Okay, because Nepal also know what they are receiving from India or how India is helping them. Just right. However, this clause later became a major source of criticism in Nepal. However, this clause became major source of criticism in Nepal, as many Nepali leaders views it as the interference in Nepal's sovereignty. Nepal views this as interference in Nepal's sovereignty. ठीक है, क्लियर? देखो, there is another one very important provision, that is national treatment principle. ठीक है, तो national treatment principle says that in the economic matters, okay, economic matters, for example the property ownership matter, for example the trade and business matter, for example the movement of the people matter, for example the residence matter, for all these matters a Nepali citizen, according to this provision, a Nepali citizen can live, can work and can buy property in India. According to the same provision, an Indian citizen can live, can work, and can buy property in Nepal. Okay? And both the nationals, whether it be the national of Nepal or the national of India, can engage in economic activities together without any kind of discrimination. Okay? So this is another major provision of this agreement. This shows the deep economic and social integration of both the countries. It shows that the both countries are deeply like into each other. Okay, so just put the heading national treatment clause. National treatment clause. Right, this is one of the most unique feature of this treaty. This is one of the most unique feature of this treaty. Right, next point. Under the national treatment principle, under the national treatment principle, क्या हुआ? कौन सा पेन है तुमको? ये चाहिए? प्राइमैक्स नहीं, नहीं भाई, नहीं लेना. Under the national treatment principle, citizens of India and Nepal, citizens of India and Nepal are treated equally in economic matters, are treated equally in economic matters in each other's territory, in each other's territory. Right, next point. They enjoy same rights, yeah, same word मतलब similar rights. They enjoy similar rights in residence. They enjoy similar rights in residence, comma, property ownership, property ownership, trade and business, trade and business, and movement, and movement. देख लिया? हाँ, ठीक है, फिर आगे लिखो। अब इसका नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिख लो। दिस मीन्स that a Nepali citizen can live, comma, work and buy property in India. And on the other hand, and on the other hand, an Indian citizen can live, work and buy property in Nepal. Can live, work and buy property in Nepal. All right. Any problem? All clear? Okay. So next principle is open border system. Open border system. So this was about the free movement of the people across the border. Okay. So under this, right? Under this system, the citizens of both countries, under this system, the citizens of both countries can travel without a visa. Can travel without a visa. Full stop. They can live and work in each other's countries. And there is free movement of people across the border. And there is free movement of people across the border. Clear? That means the people can freely move across the border. All right. People can move here and there without any restriction. Okay. And even the the economic term, the movement of good was basically ensured in the previous provision, and now the movement of people is ensured into in this open border system. All right. So the system is there, and even when Article 10 was there, okay. So write this. Provision for revision, Article 10. Provision for revision, Article 10. See, under this article, the provision was that Nepali government can ask or can request the Indian government for any kind of revision in this treaty, and by mutual negotiation, this treaty can be basically altered. Okay, So that means this treaty stands to be flexible. Okay, this treaty was flexible in nature. ठीक है, ऐसे लिख लो. Article 10 of the treaty provided that Article 10 of the treaty provided that either India or Nepal, either India or Nepal can request revision or modification of the treaty. Can request revision or modification of the treaty. ठीक है, इसका मतलब ये है कि गवर्नमेंट जो है वो मॉडिफिकेशन को रिक्वेस्ट कर सकती है. ठीक है, एंड इफ फेल्ट नेसेसरी तो ये हो सकता है. ठीक है, तो ऐसे लिख लो. इफ रिक्वेस्टेड बोथ कंट्रीज कैन नेगोशिएट एंड रिव्यू द ट्रीटी. कैन नेगोशिएट एंड रिव्यू द ट्रीटी. ठीक है, दिस मीन्स द ट्रीटी वाज या इज फ्लेक्सिबल. अब देखो, देयर आर सम क्रिटिकल इश्यूज. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन लिखो. व्हाट आर द क्रिटिकल इश्यूज एंड कंट्रोवर्सीज रिलेटेड टू दिस ट्रीटी. इस ट्रीटी से रिलेटेड कंट्रोवर्सी और क्रिटिकल इश्यूज क्या है? द फर्स्ट इशू, treaty was signed with Rana regime. The treaty was signed with Rana regime. ठीक है, because see, Rana rulers were not that popular rulers in Nepal. Okay, they were not that much popular among the people, and because they signed this treaty, so the people or the further coming governments of Nepal, they used this treaty to inculcate anti-India sentiments in the minds of the people by portraying Rana as not being that good ruler, and they signed this treaty. That means they portrayed this thing that this treaty was not good. All right, so write this. Nepal argues that Nepal argues that the treaty was signed with Rana rulers who were not popular and did not represented the people. Who were not popular and did not represented the people. And therefore the treaty lacked democratic legitimacy. And therefore the treaty lacked democratic legitimacy. Next thing is, there is a perception of inequality. Perception of inequality. So see, it is natural also, and in general, what they assume that India is a big power, and that's why it is normal, right? It is normal that when a equal, even an equal treaty is signed between, when power imbalance exists now, when one power is much bigger and the another one is a smaller power, they always presume this thing that they are not benefiting from this treaty, and the another party, that is the big power, is getting more benefited by this treaty. This is a general perception. छोटे बड़े भाई को अगर बराबर मिले तो भी ये लगता है कि बड़े को ज्यादा मिला है. This is a general perception. And even the elder or the younger brother, they both get things equally, but still there always remains in the mind of the younger one that the elder one got something more. Okay, this is a general perception. So, right, some Nepali scholars and political groups argue that some Nepali scholars and political groups argue that argue that India behaved like a big power. That India behaved like a big power and Nepal like a small state. And Nepal like a small state. And also they argued that this treaty reflects an unequal relationship. And also they argued that this treaty reflects unequal relationship. Reflects unequal relationship. This treaty reflects unequal relationship. All right. Also, right, there is a symbolic criticism. Actually, उस time क्या हुआ था ना? उस time due to some things ना. So the Indian ambassador who was there in Nepal na, so this treaty was actually signed by him and not by Jawaharlal Nehru. This is a symbolic criticism because the Prime Minister himself did not sign the treaty and just the ambassador of India signed. But obviously, by the Indian Constitution, it is inherent that whatsoever treaty is signed at the international level is signed on the name of president only, and it is first ratified by the parliament, then only it comes to power. But this is just, that's why I told you that this is symbolic criticism. Okay, symbolic criticism that the treaty was signed by Indian ambassador, that this treaty was signed by Indian ambassador and not directly by Jawaharlal Nehru, and not directly by Jawaharlal Nehru. And this was interpreted by some in Nepal, and this was interpreted by some in Nepal as a sign of unequal status. कहाँ रुके हो? This was interpreted by some as interpreted by some. नहीं करो. By some as a sign of unequal status. So previously when we talked about or discussed about the progression of Nepal in their political sense, so we have already mentioned that after 1994, almost after 1994, one party, that is UML, came. Okay, that is Unified Marxist Leninist. Okay, and what they did, they basically started inculcating to get their seats in Nepal, to get the votes of the people in Nepal. हाँ यार, क्या ध्यान है? कहाँ देख रहे हो? सुनो भी और देखो, बाई तरफ देखो, ठीक है, और कहीं नहीं देखना है. तो तुम कभी पता लगा ये गिलास का डिजाइन बनाने लगे, पता लगा ये टॉपर्स की फोटो जो है छापने लग गई. ठीक है, इधर देखो. तो अब ऐसा हुआ कि टू गेट सीट्स दे पोर्ट्रेड, they started inculcating anti-India sentiments in the mind of the people there. Okay, and for doing that, what they started doing, they started pushing this treaty as a as a sign for inculcating anti-India sentiments in their people. Okay, so just write this: anti-India politics in Nepal. Anti-India politics in Nepal. Right. Since the 1990s and especially in 1994, since 1990s and especially in 1994, political parties like UML or political parties like UML used anti-India sentiments during elections.
Sir, can you repeat last?
Since 1990s and especially in 1994, political parties like UML started using anti-India sentiments during their elections. Okay, clear? अब लिखो. This treaty was portrayed as benefiting India more than Nepal. And demanded the revision of the treaty and used it as a political tool in Nepal. And used it as a political tool in Nepal. But see, now the point is you want revision. Okay, we agree to that. Okay, some sort of revision can be done. But inside Nepal, they themselves lacks any kind of consensus. They themselves do not have any consensus over what revisions they really want. There is no consensus as such. Okay. First of all, before demanding any sort of consensus revision, first you agree in yourself within your internal system. Like these are the points on which we want revision. Then only we can talk about this revision. Okay. So put the next point. Revision demands. Revision demands. Right. So right. Nepal has repeatedly demanded revision in the treaty. Nepal has repeatedly demanded revision in the treaty. And India has agreed to discuss revision and India has agreed to discuss revision whenever Nepal raised the concern. However, the main problem is that Nepal itself has no internal consensus. Nepal itself has no internal consensus. Has no internal consensus on what changes should be made. On what changes should be made. Okay. And therefore, no major revision has taken place. Now put the heading India Nepal border issue. ठीक है, India Nepal border issues. Let me show you one picture. ये दिख रहा है, वहां तो दिख रहा होगा, यहाँ जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकंड. देखो एक्चुअली तब तक मैं, लेट मी टेल यू वन थिंग. See, there was a war. Okay, there happened a war, Anglo-Nepal war, between 1814 to 1816. Okay, during that time, in December 1815, after the conclusion of this war, a treaty of Sangoli was signed. Okay, in your modern history, you will study about that in the topic that is the Anglo and other countries wars. Okay, Anglo-Afghan war, Anglo-Mysore war, even है ना. तो उन सभी में in Anglo-Nepal war, you will study this particular topic that between India and Nepal there was a treaty of Sangoli that was signed. Okay. Now, the first thing is because Britishers during that time threatened Nepal that we will invade Kathmandu. Okay, British government, British Indian government threatened Nepal about this, and the threatening was that we will invade Kathmandu. Out of that, ultimately, the not the king of Nepal, but there was one person, C.S. Upadhyay. He was the Nepal's courtier, and he signed ultimately with the Britishers the Treaty of Sangoli. All right. The major dispute is with regards to the major dispute is with यार फोटो आ ही नहीं रही है. ओके, कल दिखाता हूँ. टुमारो आई विल शो यू दैट. ओके, अभी देखो, बस सुनो अभी बात. So what happened? The Britishers threatened Nepal to invade them, and due to that threat, they basically signed the Nepalese courtier C.S. Upadhyay. He signed the treaty with Britishers. The terms of the treaty was that एक तो पहली बात तो उसी उसी ट्रीटी का ही इम्पैक्ट था कि इन 1950 ट्रीटी द ओपन बॉर्डर सिस्टम वाज अडॉप्टेड. ओके, in this treaty the borders were demarcated. Okay, and the main thing that was chosen for demarcating the border between India and Nepal was the natural borders. Okay, natural barriers, I would say, like for example river, the tributaries of a river. Okay, now what happened, some institutional mechanisms were also established for basically carrying out our further ties, but one Kala Pani dispute always remained. Okay, what was Kala Pani dispute? This Kala Pani dispute, Kala Pani is actually a place. Okay, this is actually a place. Now what happened by the Treaty of Sangoli? The river Kali, the river Kali was basically chosen as the main river that distinguishes Nepal from India. That will serve as the border between India and Nepal. All right. Now what happened, but the original point of conflict here is that there is a western tributary or basically the stream of river Kali, and there is a eastern stream. Okay, this area that lies in between is Kalapani. Okay, now what happened, this tributary, the main dispute is with regards to this, whether the western tributary is the boundary between India and Nepal, or the eastern one. Now if the western one is the main boundary between India and Nepal, then this particular area will be gone to Nepal, sorry India, है ना. And if this is basically the बाउंड्री बिटवीन इंडिया एंड नेपाल, तो ये वाला सारा एरिया क्या आ जाएगा, इंडिया का आ जाएगा. ठीक है, अगर ये इस साइड इंडिया है समझ लो, ठीक है, इस साइड अभी ये हमारे हाथ में है सारा एरिया. दिस अल्टीमेट पार्ट इज विद इंडिया. ठीक है, नेपाल डेलिबरेटली ये बोलता है कि ये बाउंड्री जो इंडिया लेके बैठा हुआ है, ठीक है, जिससे ये सारा पार्ट जो है वो इंडिया के पास जा चुका है, दिस पार्ट इज नॉट ऑफ इंडिया. क्यों? क्योंकि उनके हिसाब से दिस इज द एक्चुअल महाकाली रिवर. ठीक है, एंड ये जो है एक्चुअल बाउंड्री होनी चाहिए, और ये वाला पार्ट जो है वो नेपाल के हाथ में आना चाहिए. ये उनका मानना है. ठीक है, और हम ये बोलते हैं कि जिस पर अभी फिलहाल जो स्टेटस को है, जो अभी फिलहाल ट्रिब्यूटरी को हमने रिकॉग्नाइज किया हुआ है, दैट ट्रिब्यूटरी इज द ओरिजिनल ट्रिब्यूटरी दैट वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ द ट्रीटी ऑफ संगोली. ठीक है, दैट इज अ मेजर डिस्प्यूट बिटवीन इंडिया एंड नेपाल. ठीक है, another related dispute is basically this Kalapani issue was also discussed in 19. It got started to be discussed in 1981. Recently, 4 years back, they issued one, I think, paper currency or something, their official document in which they portrayed this particular part as their territory. That also became a very big reason. Okay, why we started talking with them, we started raising our concern with regards to this with Nepal, but ultimately nothing happened. In 2014 a boundary working group was established. Here only there is one major reason. कल map जो दिखाऊंगा उस map में I will show you one Susta part also. ठीक है, there is one Susta region also. So the major disputes are with regards to Susta and Kalapani. Okay, Kalapani is a very strategic place. Okay, is a very strategic place. We can never lose Kalapani. Okay, Kalapani is a very strategic high alt area to India. Okay, it's a very high guarding area. ठीक है, तो हाँ हाँ ये ऊपर की तरफ ही पड़ गया. हाँ ठीक है, तो अभी देखो यही है इसमें बीच में हमारे डिस्प्यूट. ठीक है, अब नेपाल ऑलवेज ट्राइज टू प्ले दिस चाइना कार्ड. ठीक है, they always play this China card. They always start whenever they feel that some slowdown is going on in their politics, they starts going to China. We start raising our concern, and then everything comes to India. They start their internal politics or anti-India sentiments. ठीक है, things are going on like this only. ठीक है, तो इस dispute को लिखो, right? India and Nepal shares a unique open border, which is not a new arrangement. मैंने आपको ये बात बताया था ना कि एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी ओपन बॉर्डर हुआ था 1950 में. Borders were not thrown open in 1950. It was already there, but ultimately for legalizing or for codifying this open border agreement, we signed this treaty of 1950. All right. तो ऐसे क्या लिखा अभी? Which is not a new arrangement, है ना? But dates back to the British era and the foundation of the modern boundary between India and Nepal. Modern boundary between India and Nepal was led after the Anglo-Nepalese War. In bracket, you can write 1914 to 1916. Then put a heading Treaty of Sangoli. Sagoli. Right. Treaty of बंद कर दूं. Treaty of Sagoli was signed between India and Nepal in December 1816. Nepal initially refused to sign the treaty. Nepal initially refused to sign the treaty, but when British Britishers threatened to invade Nepal, Kathmandu लिखो. When Britishers threatened to invade Kathmandu, the treaty was finally signed by C.S. Upadhyay. By C.S. Upadhyay. In bracket, you can write a Nepalese courtier. Courtier, Courtier. ठीक है. Next point, right? Importantly, the treaty was not signed by the King of Nepal. Treaty was not signed by the King of Nepal, which later became a source of dispute. Which later became a source of dispute and interpretation problem. देखो, अब इसमें लिखो मेजर बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट. हेडिंग डालो मेजर बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट. एक वो भी तो कंसर्न तुमने, हैव यू सीन दैट सीमा हैदर इशू, है ना, दैट हैपेंड इन इंडिया. दैट आल्सो इज अ वेरी बिग सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न. ही विद हर ऑल द किड्स, कितने बच्चे थे? 4. With her 4 kids, She all the way first went from Pakistan to nahi, to Dubai. And then from there to Nepal, and then via the bus route entered India. है ना? So a very big issue. Okay, we understand she was not having any wrong intention. Otherwise, it's a long time. If there would have been any wrong intention, so that could have been proved. But uh, like illegal people or the people who can be a potential threat to India's security, they can also come via that route. And media, what media is doing? Instead of hiding that route, instead of telling everyone that route what she used, they are explaining via map. I saw in news one media channel was explaining from this to this by this and then here. Array, you are telling every other person about the route that they can use to illegally enter India. So, and what you said? Intruders are coming daily. They are coming. है ना? Yesterday only I saw a video where a person, a vlogger, who was there in Manipur on Bangladesh border, and he was showing everything like it was open literally. Anyone can go and come from there, है ना? नहीं नहीं. Bhutan, there are very less chance. See, but there their security agencies are there. See, अच्छा चलो एक है भी ना, but there are very few spots because of Himalayas. There are very few spots, okay, where they can exactly. But the major problem is in plain area. Okay, right. हाँ, क्रॉस कर जाओ है ना, बस देखा है तुमने करते हुए. हाँ हाँ, है ना. तुम्हारे घर से निकाल नहीं होगा, है ना. ओ, शराब भी तो बहुत आती जाती है. बताओ क्या करें. तो राइट राइट, फर्स्ट काला पानी इशू. Right, this issue has its origin in the Treaty of Sagoli. The boundary that was defined between India and Nepal by this treaty was the river Kali. Now the dispute arose because river Kali has multiple streams. Nepal claims that the river that originates in the west of Kalapani belongs to Nepal. हाँ, belongs to Nepal. ये क्या लिखा तुमने लाइन? हाँ, and hence they claim that Kala Pani belongs to them. While on the other hand, India claims that the river that originates to the east of Kala Pani is the boundary, and hence Kala Pani belongs to India. Hence Kala Pani belongs to India. ठीक है. So, right, India has stationed troops in Kala Pani since India has stationed troops in Kala Pani since the 1962 Indo-China War. The 1962 Indo-China War. This area is like, here it's China, here it's Nepal, and here it's India. This is at tri-junction. That's why it's very strategic to India, because if it gets in the hands of Nepal, anytime China by using Nepal can enter into India. Okay, so right, area is strategically important because it lies near the area is strategically important because it lies near the India, China, Nepal tri-junction. ठीक है. अब एक और लिखो, सुस्ता इशू. सुस्ता इशू. Susta is basically a area between India and Nepal, and it lies in Bihar. Okay, so Nepal Bihar border. So what happened? It was decided that there the boundary between India and Nepal will be River Gandak. But actually, during the this whole time, River Gandak changed its course. River Gandak itself changed the course. Okay, that became the major reason why now the dispute is that the, both the countries claims that this part the Susta is there, and we claim that Susta is R. Right. This is an area located in Bihar Nepal border region. In Bihar Nepal border region. And the dispute caused due to the change in course of the dispute arose due to the change in course of Gandak river. Course of Gandak river. ठीक है, which leads to territorial claims by both countries. Territorial claims by both the countries. ठीक है. अब अगला एक हेडिंग डाल दो, Security threats due to open border. Security threats due to open border. This we will be doing in the next class. Any problem, online students?
No, sir.
आप ओके, आप लोगों को करते हैं फिर, है ना? ओके, बाय.
Thank you.
वेलकम.